The legend of Eldius begins, an adventure island created by a goddess. Adventurers from across the world gather to conquer its 7 great dungeons. Their goal is not treasure, but a special reward for those who succeed. This reward is the promise that the goddess will grant any single wish. Some adventurers seek immense power, while others desire eternal life. Believing nothing is impossible for the goddess, countless adventurers face the danger. Amidst a field of flowers, the beautiful goddess slumbers peacefully. On this adventure island, a strange rumor has begun to spread. In a town near the Derritaros labyrinth, a party confronts a young man. The party leader aggressively confirms the porter is not just some random kid. The young porter politely introduces himself to the party as Rio. The party leader scoffs, glancing skeptically at his companions. The party huddles, doubting Rio and feeling anxious about trusting him with their luggage. Getting in his face, the leader threatens Rio if he dares to underestimate them. Rio holds up a hand, calmly saying he understands their apprehension. He reveals the astronomical experience needed for level 2, over 100 million. The party leader shouts in disbelief, questioning how that number is even possible. Rio promises to protect their luggage, hinting his experience is more than it seems. Another adventurer arrives, warning the party not to recklessly challenge the dungeon. The party's leader angrily demands to know what business it is of theirs. A female knight apologizes, explaining her party was dispatched by their country. She states they are on a royal command to retrieve a treasure from the labyrinth. Before the imposing ziggurat-like dungeon, she says they must focus on their mission. The angry leader mockingly asks Rio what he thinks of the knightly group. Rio replies with innocence that he knows nothing about what knights are like. The female knight, Donna, laughs, saying real knights are grittier than storybook heroes. The other leader scoffs, saying he'd rather carry the luggage himself. He whispers to Rio, revealing a secret about the knight. He claims Donna's unique skill is just flea foot for running away. A diagram explains the island's system of unique skills granted by the goddess. Donna calmly states that Fleafoot is a useful skill, ignoring the taunt. She looks at the other party, acknowledging she is certain of their strength. Rio bows, apologizing for his earlier words, but Donna reassures him. He notes Derritaros is one of the most difficult dungeons to conquer. The party asks how he could know their strength, having just met them. Rio admits he was using the time to confirm their abilities. His eyes suddenly glow with an intense analytical light, crackling with energy. He accurately lists the names, levels, and specializations of the 3 adventurers. The leader demands to know how he can see another person's status. Rio calmly reveals the source of his knowledge, his unique appraisal eye skill. The entire party erupts in a unified shout of pure shock and disbelief. The leader questions how a level 1 porter could possess such a rare skill. Donna quickly silences him, realizing the immense value of their new companion. She reflects on finding him by chance, wondering if it was more than luck. She recalls discovering him in a remote forest 6 months prior, questioning their good fortune. Curious, she asks if he possesses any exploration skills as well. Rio claims he has nothing special, but allows her to look. He presents his status for her to see, a flash of light accompanying it. A massive status window appears, showing countless high-level resistance and mundane skills. The party realizes acquiring resistance skills requires enduring the corresponding attacks. The leader breaks out in a cold sweat, realizing Rio's terror resistance is maxed out. Rio casually picks up his pack, suggesting they talk while walking to save time. He adjusts the straps on his massive backpack, ready to move. He effortlessly lifts the enormous pack onto his shoulders. The humbled party can only watch, stunned by his casual display of strength. As they begin to walk, he offers one final thought. He confidently reassures them that he will not die, so they needn't worry. The party agrees, now certain he will protect their belongings at all costs. They arrive at their destination, the 6th floor of the Derritaros underground labyrinth. Inside the stone corridor, a massive trap is suddenly activated. A giant spiked block slams down, crushing Rio as his companion screams his name. He nonchalantly states his arm was only broken a little, baffling his companion. Ignoring his own injury, he warns that something is approaching from the right. A giant, worm-like monster with a tooth-filled maw bursts from the wall. The creature lets out a guttural sound as it emerges from the stone. The party is thrown into combat, struggling against the powerful beast. The leader curses, realizing the monsters have suddenly become incredibly strong. 2 massive worms now confront the party, who had found the upper floors easy. Donna's sword proves ineffective against the monster's tough armored hide. She notes these creatures are on a completely different level from previous floors. The mage exclaims in horror that his magic can't even penetrate the creature's teeth. Rio calmly instructs the mage to aim for the silverworm's mouth. The party leader panics, wondering how they can possibly handle the second monster. Rio declares he will draw its attention, despite his broken arm and level 1 status. He sprints away, ignoring the furious shouts of his companion behind him. Over his shoulder, Rio tells his concerned companion not to worry about him. The leader mutters in frustration, vowing to make the boy regret his insolence. Rio yells, "Over here!" Zrenyi, drawing the colossal silverworm's attention toward him. The ground cracks under the pressure as he dodges the monster's approach. He narrowly avoids the beast, which emerges fully from the dungeon wall. The silverworm lunges, its circular, toothed maw spinning like a deadly buzzsaw. Rio glances back with grim determination, seeing the attack coming. He braces himself, thinking that if the beast is going to charge again, he stares down the monster, yelling for it to come on. The creature bears down on him, its massive head filling the entire frame. It smashes into the wall, the impact sending Rio tumbling through the air. His companion can only watch in shock as Rio is thrown backward. The warrior lets out a cry of alarm at the sight of the explosion. Rio is sent flying, the wall exploding into a shower of stone fragments. The monster rears back, letting out a deep, guttural roar of pure fury. It turns its attention back to Rio, preparing another attack. The silverworm spews a powerful jet of viscous, corrosive liquid. Rio cries out in agony as he is slammed against the ground. The acid painfully sizzles and dissolves Rio's body, his face contorted in agony. From a safe distance, the warrior watches in horror, screaming at Rio. The massive head of the silverworm looms over Rio's dissolving form. The party gives up hope, believing he is about to die. A close-up shows Rio's skin melting away under the acid. His eye twitches in a final, agonizing spasm on the brink of death. The massive toothed maw of the silverworm looms over Rio's dissolving form. A radiant light pulses from the center of the panel, announcing the presence of a unique skill. From the fallen boy, a massive vortex of pure white energy erupts as his skill, Goddess's Embrace, activates. Within the swirling, brilliant light, the boy's face is shown to be completely serene, as if in a peaceful trance. The blonde warrior Beal shouts in utter disbelief, questioning how the boy's wounds could have healed in an instant. Pierre kneels on the ground, completely healed but still bearing the marks of his ordeal, his gaze now sharp and focused. Seeing the opening, the party's bowl-cut mage, Vanessa, urgently calls out Pierre's name. Vanessa gathers a swirling, rose-like orb of magical energy between her hands, preparing to launch an attack. With a powerful cry to go, she unleashes the concentrated spell directly at the silverworm's gaping maw. The colossal monster reels backward, its head engulfed in smoke and crackling with destructive energy from the magical impact. As the party watches, the massive worm's body begins to dissolve into particles of light and disappear. Vanessa clasps her hands together, her face alight with a joyous smile as she cheers that they succeeded. Bill lets out a relieved sigh, looking back at the dissipating monster and muttering that the fight was too close. Amidst the lingering smoke, Pierre thoughtfully brushes some dust from his tunic with a calm expression. He stands up, shouldering his pack, his expression composed as his party members begin to approach him. Vanessa expresses her relief while the still suspicious Beal demands to know what in the world Pierre is. Pierre turns to them, his expression placid as he calmly reports that their luggage is also completely unharmed. The scene shows the defeated silverworm's body lying on the dungeon floor as a title card for the chapter appears. A gloved hand is shown in close-up, a soft sound effect emphasizing a subtle, almost imperceptible action. In a brief flashback, a goddess-like figure asks Pierre if the monster-repelling barrier she erected is to his liking. She explains that the wide barrier funnels monsters into the remaining paths, making encounters there highly likely. Back in the present, the party sits around a small candle, with Beal looking over at a seated Pierre. Beal's patience finally snaps as he grabs Pierre by the collar, furiously demanding that he value his own life more. He yells in frustration, questioning what is going on and how Pierre could recover so easily from a fatal attack. Unfazed, Pierre calmly explains that what they witnessed was the power of his unique skill. A diagram illustrates his ultimate ability. It nullifies all negative effects, restoring him from the brink of death. He explains that defeating weak monsters, like the small bug shown, normally yields very little experience. A chibi diagram shows how his skill, Goddess's Embrace, triggers upon defeat, granting him a massive experience boost. The party sits and listens, Beal protesting that if he had such a skill, he would just give up leveling and live peacefully. The female knight Donna looks at Pierre with concern, asking what could possibly drive him to take such risks. With a shadowed expression, Pierre quietly admits that he has a wish that he absolutely must fulfill. He then offers Donna a recovery potion from his bag, and she looks at him with a silent, questioning gaze. Rummaging through his pack, he startles the party by announcing that they should turn back. Donna, surprised by his sudden suggestion, asks him to explain his reasoning for wanting to retreat. Pierre begins his explanation by referencing the silverworm they just fought. He reveals the grim news that the monster they just defeated is considered one of the weakest on this floor. He elaborates that these creatures typically travel in swarms, making consecutive battles against multiple foes a certainty. Donna, worried, insists that they should rest and set up a barrier before they become too exhausted to fight. With a serious expression, Pierre states that there is another, more important reason for his concern. He reminds them that their monster-repelling barrier should have prevented any creatures from appearing in the first place. Beale realizes the terrifying implication, asking if there are monsters on this floor that can bypass their defenses. Pierre confirms that there are a few rare monsters capable of such a feat, though they are seldom seen. He turns his gaze toward Donna, who looks back at him, sensing his line of questioning is directed at her. His gaze sharpens as he directly accuses her of possessing the unique skill known as demonic misfortune. Elsewhere, a blonde cleric beams with satisfaction, musing about her own convenient skill, undesired good fortune. Her companion, a short-haired mage named Veal, notes that they've encountered an abnormally small number of monsters. The party's warrior, Tyrone, complains about the lack of action, wishing he had such a goddess-like ability. The porter, Rio, asks the cleric if this easy, monster-free path is truly what everyone in the party desires. She confirms that it is, stating that avoiding unnecessary battles is the best way to achieve their objective. The three party members listen to her logical explanation, their expressions a mix of agreement and contemplation. The cleric reiterates with a smile that their primary purpose in this dungeon is to retrieve a specific treasure. Rio looks down, acknowledging that simply retreating to a lower, safer floor is not a viable option for them. He gazes at a flickering candle, realizing that their current, deceptively peaceful situation is exactly what they wished for. He announces that they should turn back, citing a bad feeling, but the warrior Tyrone immediately objects to the flimsy reason. Rio insists, explaining that while he doesn't want to retreat, this situation presents a perfect opportunity to gain experience. He clarifies that he cannot let them face danger, and that his bad feeling is more than just a baseless hunch. His eyes widen in shock as a premonition lances through him, realizing the undesired good fortune is about to trigger. He urgently tells his companions to prepare to move as something is coming, startling the cleric with his sudden outburst. The entire dungeon begins to rumble violently, and Rio looks around, wondering what is causing the tremor. The shaking intensifies, and he realizes with alarm that this is not a simple, uniform tremor, but something directional. Tyrone points ahead in alarm, his face etched with panic as he spots movement in the corridor. Two brutish, one-eyed giants, identified as Los Cyclopes, emerge from the shadows, their forms hulking and menacing. Rio grimly confirms that these are the very troublesome monsters he had been worried about encountering. He observes with a bead of sweat on his brow that there are two of them standing before the party. Tyrone panics, but Rio quickly shushes him, explaining that their monster-repelling barrier must have failed. Peering down an intersecting hallway, Rio's eyes widen in horror as he spots another approaching threat. A third Cyclops joins the others, and he realizes with dread that all three have gathered in one place. Tyrone turns to the cleric, desperately urging her to use her unique skill and escape from the overwhelming odds. He frantically tells her to go, but she questions his command for her to wait. The cleric asks if he truly wants her to abandon her comrades and flee the battle alone. Tyrone insists that someone must survive to report back to the capital, and Viel agrees to provide covering support. The cleric reluctantly agrees, admitting she suspects her own unique skill is the cause of this disastrous situation. Tyrone looks on, sweat beading on his brow as he takes in the sight of the three approaching giants. The Cyclops stand menacingly as Rio calmly explains that there is a simple reason for this turn of events. He reveals that these particular monsters provide the most experience points, making this a highly efficient, if deadly, opportunity. The cleric looks on in horror, finally understanding that her good fortune is this consolidated, fatal encounter. Rio adds that while her skill is unpleasant in this context, there are still ways to use it effectively. Tyrone angrily accuses Rio of demoralizing their leader at a critical moment and tells him to read the room. Rio apologizes, admitting with a slight bow that he is not very good at such social niceties. He clenches his fist tightly, declaring that he has something important to say to the group. He holds up a bundle, explaining that he also has a suggestion to make regarding their situation. With unwavering conviction that cuts through their fear, he declares that he has no intention of letting anyone die. His stunned companions look on in silence, taken aback by his bold and confident declaration. He instructs them to leave their heavy baggage behind in a corner to increase their speed for the escape. Tyrone protests, saying he can't worry about luggage, but Rio reassures him he will retrieve their things later. Rio rallies the party with a determined shout, telling them to break through the monster's formation and escape. The cleric runs, her face etched with doubt as she wonders if this desperate plan can truly succeed. Veal follows close behind, his expression showing he is equally uncertain if their escape attempt will work. Rio reassures them that he has a plan and hands torches to Veal and the cleric, addressing them by name. He reveals that the Cyclops hates fire, and Tyrone complains that he should have said so sooner. A small comical diagram shows the Cyclops recoiling from a flame, as Rio clarifies that it is not a weakness. Tyrone grumbles in frustration, annoyed at Rio's roundabout and confusing way of explaining things. Rio poses a rhetorical question, asking how they would feel if something they truly hated was brandished at them. Veal realizes that such an act would evoke both sadness and a surge of anger simultaneously. The cleric agrees grimly, her eyes closed in annoyance, as she states that it would just make her angry. The party erupts in unified frustration as Rio explains that this tactic makes them the monster's primary target. Rio clears his throat, apologizing for his poor explanation before continuing to lay out his strategy. He instructs the other two adventurers to run past him while holding their torches high to draw the monster's attention. He commands them not to look back at the monsters, but to run with all their might. The two adventurers sprint past the hulking one-eyed giants, acting as decoys as instructed. Rio yells after his fleeing companions, telling them not to be afraid and to just keep running. The young mage Veal sweats profusely, his face a mask of extreme fear and anxiety. With a look of grim determination, the knight Dona declares they must escape immediately. Veal cries out, overwhelmed by fear and urging them to flee the torchlit corridor. Tyrone angrily questions why Dona is told to flee while he and the mage are not. Rio calmly explains that Dona must use her unique skill, Fleetfoot, to run away. Frustrated, Tyrone admits he didn't read his skill's full description, thinking it just makes him faster. Rio's intense gaze shows he is skipping the finer details to save precious time. He reveals their objective is distraction, instructing them to run while focusing on attacking. Panic consumes Tyrone's mind, knowing he is doomed if his party leader is defeated. Sprinting frantically down the hall, his mind repeats the single, desperate command to run. He grits his teeth, screaming internally that fleeing is the only thing he can do now. A massive, roaring Cyclops swings its club as Tyrone zips past in a terrified blur. Rio stands perfectly still, waiting for the moment his companions are completely out of sight. His foot plants firmly on the ground, his entire mindset shifting from fleeing to a new purpose. With a ferocious snarl, he draws his sword, his intent now focused on cutting the monsters down. Miles ahead, Tyrone complains that simply running is exhausting and offers no relief. Rio's voice echoes in his mind, explaining that the skill is purely defensive in nature. Tyrone recalls the skill's annoying name, but acknowledges its exceptional, albeit flawed, performance. When maximized, the skill ensures the monsters on this floor cannot land a single blow. The moment the user even thinks of counterattacking, the skill's powerful effect becomes useless. Rio's voice explains that no matter how strong a party is, they will be wiped out eventually. Tyrone understands the skill as a decoy, allowing others to escape and avoid total party annihilation. He touches his cheek, a look of dawning realization and confusion on his face. Rio's voice clarifies that the skill is influenced by the user's stats and has its limits. Tyrone lets out a gasp of surprise as a new strange sensation flows through his body. He questions if this sudden change is real, his body moving with impossible, effortless speed. Feathers fly as he feels light as a feather, his skill escape foot activating brilliantly. He lets out a cry of exertion, easily weaving past a powerful blow from the Cyclops. Amazed, he realizes his body is moving on its own, dodging with an instinct he doesn't possess. Tyrone trusts in what Rio told him, realizing he was right not to overthink it. Rio's confident words about the monster's inability to hit him echo in Tyrone's mind. Rio recalls his own uncertainty, wondering how much he could truly trust the knight's words. Tyrone reflects on his own battles, knowing they pale compared to what Rio has faced. A memory shows Tyrone beaten and bloody, having faced death many times himself. The excruciating pain from his past battles was enough to completely shatter his spirit. He remembers the overwhelming feeling that he just couldn't possibly go on any longer. A shattered sword symbolizes his broken will, the moment he could no longer even fight. A question hangs in the air. Why does this 14-year-old boy continue his perilous adventure? He dreams of conquering the island, a wish so powerful he is willing to die for it. Tyrone expresses his utter confusion about the boy who possesses the ultimate skill of undeath. He screams at Rio to stop his divine posturing and concentrate on the fight at hand. A monster's powerful blow shatters the ground, sending a shower of stone fragments flying. Tyrone on the ground urgently yells for everyone to get up, as the next wave is coming. Rio is sent flying by an attack, the dungeon floor exploding under the brutal impact. The stone floor cracks and shatters into pieces from the powerful enemy blow. Landing hard, Rio pants for breath, realizing how battered and beaten he has become. He grits his teeth in determination, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. Looking at his surrounded party, he resolves not to be a burden to them any longer. The bandaged Pierre decides his role as a distraction is over, as his companions have escaped. Tyrone watches in horror as Rio runs deeper into the fray, not away from it. Rio glances back, yelling that he is going ahead, deeper into the danger. Tyrone screams with raw panic, desperately pleading for Rio to come back to safety. Now alone, Rio's shoulder is covered in scrapes and dirt, a testament to the brutal fight. He winces, clutching a deep, grievous wound on his arm, his body pushed to its limit. Sweat drips from his brow as he presses onward, his face a mask of weary resolve. He knows that if he can just hold out a little longer, Donna will be able to escape. Clutching his wounded arm, he knows this injury means the very next hit will be fatal. His skills activate, his mind processing the immense danger as he dodges a monster's attack. He focuses, performing an emergency evasion as another blow shatters the ground nearby. He leaps through the air, his concentration absolute as a monster attacks the spot below him. A horde of snarling monsters, their crude weapons raised, surrounds the lone boy. His eyes widen, pupils dilated, as he activates his appraisal eye to analyze the impossible odds. A memory surfaces. No matter how strong a party is, they will be wiped out eventually. The scene flashes back 6 months to the bloody aftermath of his former party's annihilation. A blood-soaked logbook lies on the ground, a silent testament to their ultimate failure. He remembers kneeling amidst the bodies of his comrades, his face a mask of utter despair. The memory is steeped in a profound and overwhelming feeling of complete powerlessness. He recalls being slammed against a wall, thinking desperately, "If only I were stronger." He grits his teeth, the memory of his physical failure still fresh and painfully clear. He knew then, as he knows now, that he couldn't keep going on like that. Being slammed against the wall again, he groans in pain, his body reaching its limit. A massive monster looms over him, its weapon raised, ready to deliver the final blow. He realizes his comrades have escaped, his purpose as a decoy now tragically fulfilled. A massive, crushing blow connects with tremendous, earth-shattering force. The monster swings its massive club, a blur of motion aimed directly at the boy. Rio is sent flying backward, his body crashing hard into the shattered stone floor. His eyes are wide with shock and pain as the life begins to fade from him. He lies spread-eagled amidst the rubble, his body broken and completely still. His lifeless form lies on the ground, small motes of light rising gently from it. A system message appears, announcing he has acquired 12,500 experience points. Large characters begin to appear over his body, spelling out a single word, level ... The message completes, weight has increased. His eyes snap open with shock, his body whole again. His face is a mask of pure astonishment, his journey continuing to the next experience value. The title page shows him lying amidst the rubble, confirming his level has indeed increased. He sits up dazed and confused, trying to process the impossible event that just occurred. His eye widens as he realizes this is no time to be celebrating his miraculous revival. A lone monster lumbers away, catching his attention as it heads down a corridor. He sits up, watching the monster leave, sensing it is going somewhere specific. He wonders if he defeated the monster upon revival, but dismisses the thought and gets up to follow. The sound of his footsteps echoes as he begins his pursuit of the creature. He pushes himself up from the ground, his mind set on following the monster's path. Looking at a torch-lit alcove, he hopes that Donna and the others made it out safely. He looks at his gloved hand, a faint light emanating from it as he feels his new power. The text Louvre 2 appears in his vision. He finally realizes he has truly leveled up. Sitting alone, he reflects on the 2 long years he spent courting death to reach this point. A memory begins, taking him back 9 years to a humble house in the snow. A very young Mireille pouts at the dinner table, refusing to eat until her mother comes home. A young Rio playfully threatens to eat her dinner if she continues to wait for their mother. Mireille throws a tantrum, waving her arms and insisting she won't eat until her mother returns. He gently places a steaming bowl of stew before her, trying to coax his little sister to eat. A young Rio with tears glistening in his eyes reassures his sister that their mother will be home very soon. He tells his pouting sister Mireille that their mother would be sad to see her so downcast upon returning. His words work, and Mireille begins to eat her food with a new, determined expression. Watching his sister eat, Rio's own expression softens into a gentle, fond smile. The 2 siblings cheerfully share their meal, with Mireille happily offering him a second helping. Later that evening, Rio sits quietly by the sofa, watching over his sister as she sleeps. The front door clicks open and their mother arrives, her voice bright as she announces she's home. Rio quickly puts a finger to his lips, gesturing for his mother to be quiet. Their mother whispers, asking if Mireille is asleep, and Rio confirms she was waiting up just moments ago. He gestures toward the couch, quietly explaining the situation to his mother. Leaning close, he whispers a welcome home on behalf of his sleeping sister. A tender memory of their mother tucking them in is overlaid by the devastating truth. She died that day. The scene changes, focusing on a hand tightly gripping a crude, blood-flecked knife. In a desolate, snowy forest, a young, battle-worn Rio's eyes are wide with grim determination. He stands defiantly before an ethereal woman who remarks on his reckless nature. The woman smiles gently, noting that his unwavering, defiant glare is just like his mother's. Her divine form radiates a soft, sparkling light, a stark contrast to the harsh landscape. The boy, clad in a tattered cloak, looks up at her, silently questioning her presence. His small hand tightens its grip on the hilt of his knife with renewed tension. He remains in a defensive crouch, his gaze sharp and hostile, ready for a fight. The woman calmly acknowledges his aggressive posture, saying she understands his caution. She reveals her purpose. She has come to fulfill a promise made to his mother, Leva. Elsewhere, 2 brutish men search a village, one vowing to kill the boy. A jolt of surprise runs through the boy as he watches them from a safe distance. One of the thugs seized with rage, furious that the boy dared to strike his face. Hidden from view, the boy watches the men, a low growl of frustration escaping him. The divine woman stands beside him, silently observing the scene with her arms crossed. His eye widens in shock as he is struck by a strange, almost mechanical sensation. The thugs continue their hunt, yelling for the boy not to run away. The boy is perplexed, certain he made eye contact with one of them, yet he remained unseen. The woman explains that while the men can physically see them, they cannot truly perceive their existence. She states that this strange rule of perception applies to him just as it does to her. She presents him with a chilling proposition. He now has the chance for a one-sided attack. The boy's gaze hardens, and he accuses her of being surprisingly belligerent. She states that she will not interfere, as this is a rule she herself established for the island. He turns away from her, his mind racing as he questions her story and motives. His thoughts turn to his mother, Leva, and a supposedly impenetrable barrier she once created. The woman's tone becomes grave as she speaks of a powerful curse. She adds grimly that a curse will also vanish if the cursed person dies. She describes their environment as a lawless, closed-off place where the weak are inevitably preyed upon. A low, guttural growl suddenly echoes through the trees, signaling a new threat. A monstrous, dark-furred, wolf-like creature with glowing eyes emerges from the undergrowth. The enormous beast looms over the boy, a shadowy specter of death in the falling snow. Its predatory, glowing eye locks onto the boy with a terrifying, intelligent focus. The boy freezes completely, a terrified gasp escaping his lips. He is desperately clutching his unconscious sister, trying to shield her as he flees. He realizes with dawning horror that the monstrous wolf can see him perfectly. The beast lunges with terrifying speed, its massive jaws gaping wide, ready to crush him. In a moment of pure despair, he knows it's useless. There is no escape. A heart-wrenching cry escapes him as he braces for the brutal, inevitable attack. The sickening sound of tearing flesh and crunching bone fills the air as the beast strikes. Miraculously, he looks up, shocked but seemingly unharmed, muttering in exhausted disbelief. The ethereal woman appears, calmly observing the aftermath of the attack. She idly comments that this area is a high-level hunting ground where weaker individuals now wander. With the immediate threats now gone, She turns and approaches the boy on the ground. She extends a delicate hand to him, an unspoken invitation in her gesture. Kneeling before him in the snow, she asks if he will come with her. She offers him an escape to a paradise where he can live without any hardship. Clutching his sister tightly, the boy asks if she will save both of them. The woman's eye narrows slightly, her expression unreadable as she prepares her answer. She clarifies her offer with a single devastating condition: she will save only him. She explains that his poor sister, as pitiful as it is, must be left behind. The boy screams in disbelief and horror, demanding to know why. She explains that his mother's wish was made before his sister, Mireille, was even born. The boy is devastated, unable to comprehend the cruel twist of fate. He looks down at his sleeping sister, his heart breaking as a single tear falls. A new defiant spark ignites in his eyes as he looks up from his sister's face. He gently lays his sister down on the snowy ground, his movements deliberate. He turns back to face the woman, his small body trembling with a new resolve. He wonders if she is looking down on him from her divine, untouchable pedestal. He recalls his mother's final, desperate plan to take Mireille to an acquaintance in the next town. The woman systematically dismantles his hope, calling his plan unreasonable and his cloak useless. She explains that in his state, he would never survive the journey in the bitter cold. He listens silently, his head bowed in defeat, his hope dwindling. He stubbornly insists he can do it, that his only role is to ensure Mireille's safety. His duty, he believes, will be over the moment he gets her to the town. The woman senses his fierce obsession, but dismisses it as the shallow thinking of a child. He yells at her, his frustration boiling over, telling her to stop if she has no intention of helping. A tense silence hangs between them, the woman's expression unreadable. The boy declares that if he is to be helped, he wants that help now. She states that she cannot grant the wish of one who is unqualified, as that is her nature. His eyes narrow with a sudden, desperate, and shocking idea. He lunges forward, not to attack, but to grab her arm for leverage. He pulls his bloodied knife, startling the woman with his swift, unexpected movement. He presses the blade to his own throat, shouting for her to save Mireille in his place. He holds the blade steady against his neck, his body trembling with unwavering resolve. The sharp point of the knife digs into the soft flesh of his throat. The woman is utterly stunned, her composure shattered as she asks what he is thinking. She cries out that she has no obligation to save his sister just because he dies. The boy calmly counters, saying she should have waited for his reply before acting. The woman clutches her head in frustration, lamenting the impossible situation. She paces frantically, muttering that she got ahead of herself and committed a major rule violation. In a chibi-style panic, she frets that this was her very first wish-granting job. She stops, her expression a mix of respect and resignation, understanding his resolve. She agrees to his wish, but warns him that his life is too heavy a price to pay. She points out that even if he had abandoned his sister, his chances of survival were not zero. He looks up at her, asking what price he must pay for his sister's life. She stands before him, her gaze intense as she prepares to state her devastating terms. She explains that the price will be to make him truly comprehend his current anguish. The terrible bargain is struck. To save his sister, her very existence will be erased from his. A young boy's face fills the frame, his eyes wide with sorrow. He is told he can no longer call himself his sister's brother. A memory flashes of him comforting his sister, Mireille, when she was sick. He recalls a chibi-style memory of soothing Mireille when she was crying. Another memory shows them happily sharing a basket of apples. He remembers his mother tending to them both while they were ill. The memory focuses on Mireille's small hand holding a woven flower crown. It culminates in Mireille joyfully calling out to her big brother. She is seen sweetly placing the flower crown upon his head. Back in the present, his hand clenches tightly on his sister's clothing. With his eyes squeezed shut, he chokes out his agreement to the terms. The goddess Eldistia questions his quick decision, reminding him of the consequences. His gaze is firm as he looks up with fierce determination. Holding his sister, he says that if it saves her, the pain is worth it. Eldistia sighs, exasperated by the 5-year-old's incredible resolve. She states her protection is only temporary, and she won't watch over him forever. In the snowy woods, she explains he must leave when he's old enough. The boy's eyes show that he understands and accepts her conditions. A flicker of pity crosses Eldistia's face as she looks at him. She warns him not to come begging for help later on. He shyly remembers that he has something important to tell her. Eldistia's expression softens as she decides to reveal her own secret. She muses that telling him her name might be a poor choice for him. The boy explains that this is a last-ditch, desperate situation for him. A gentle smile appears on her lips as she prepares her grand revelation. Surrounded by light, she declares she is the island's creator, the goddess Eldistia. She gently touches his cheek, telling him to come with her now. He looks on in shock as a wound on his face magically heals. He looks at his hand, then follows her towards a new, unknown path. A somber memory flashes, showing a quiet, lamplit town street at night. The view follows a cobblestone path leading to a set of stone steps. His mother is seen slumped on the steps, a lone figure consumed by grief. In the memory, he holds Mireille close and softly wishes her well. Eldistia asks if his farewells are complete, and he quietly confirms. He gently hands his sleeping sister over to the waiting goddess. He watches with a sad yet resolute gaze as she accepts his sister. Standing alone on stone steps, he watches the two of them leave. Eldistia walks away, carrying his sister into the unknown future. The scene transitions to the bare gnarled branches of the desolate forest. The camera pans up the trees, setting a new somber scene. Eldistia wonders aloud if she can now fulfill her promise to Livia. The boy asks how she could know about his mother's promise. He questions if she knows his mother conquered the 7 dungeons. Eldistia reveals his mother was the only one to ever conquer the island. A flashback shows his mother, Livia, looking determined but weary. Eldistia explains Livia fought through the final dungeon while pregnant. The boy listens, horrified, as she speaks of an unbreakable curse. Eldistia says his mother's selfless wish is the reason he is alive today. He suggests they stop talking for now and continue on their way. Eldistia pushes open a massive ornate door that appeared from thin air. The grand door swings open, revealing a brilliant, blinding light. She beckons him to follow her through the magical doorway. He shields his eyes from the intense light as he steps through. Flower petals drift through the air, signaling a complete change of scenery. They arrive in a vibrant, sun-drenched meadow with a house on a hill. The boy stares in wide-eyed wonder at the strangely familiar sight. Eldistia asks if he recognizes the house as the one he used to live in. He remains silent for a moment, and she watches for his reaction. She panics internally, thinking she has made a terrible mistake. He thinks to himself that the house will only bring back painful memories. Relieved by his eventual approval, she suggests making the house even bigger. He looks up at her, a small, genuine smile forming on his face. He admits that the house brings back a lot of different memories. He says he likes the house as it allows him to remember happy times. Inside, Eldistia suggests they should take a bath before they rest. The boy stands awkwardly, holding a towel to cover himself, looking very shy. Eldistia, still clothed, urges him to hurry up and get into the water. He admits with embarrassment that he has never bathed all by himself before. She panics, suddenly realizing a 5-year-old could drown if left alone. With a blush, he boldly suggests that they should get in together. Eldistia, also blushing, agrees and begins to get undressed. She looks at him, flustered by his surprising forwardness. In the tub, he bosses her around, telling her to hurry up. Sudsy bubbles fill the large wooden tub as they settle in. She washes his hair, remarking on how well he fought earlier. He admits it was recklessness born from his own frustration. She explains that the monsters he fought were far above his level. He asks her what she means by the word status. She playfully splashes him, asking if his parents never taught him. Sudsy water drips as she prepares to explain the island's system. He listens intently as she gently holds him in the warm water. She tells him to look, pointing toward the surface of the water. A shimmering status window appears, displaying all his abilities. She explains that on this island, everyone can see their own power. His stats will increase with training, not just from living day to day. He recalls his mother was always telling him that he needed to get stronger. He thinks it's probably for the best that he doesn't know the full details. Eldistia looks at him with a gentle, encouraging expression. He points to a section on the status screen, asking what it is. The word hero is highlighted, revealing his unique, innate skill. She explains that it is a special skill he was born with. Only the Creator King can change it, a power she herself does not have. He asks her what kind of skill it is exactly. She explains that the hero skill is a great and fortunate boon. He reflects that it seems to make others want to follow him as a leader. Later, he gasps in shock upon seeing an extravagant feast laid out. He asks who could have made all the food, since they are alone. She explains that as a goddess, she will grant his every wish. He looks away from the feast, a hint of sadness in his eyes. He tells her he simply wants to eat the stew his mother used to make. Eldistia, with a gentle blush, agrees to Rio's heartfelt request to taste his mother's stew. A steaming warm bowl of stew, looking just as he remembers, materializes before him. He exclaims that it tastes exactly like his mother's, as she proudly asserts her divine power. The familiar flavor overwhelms him, and tears begin to well up in his eyes. Startled by his tears, Eldistia asks in alarm if he has been injured somewhere. Rubbing his eyes, he insists it's nothing, while she realizes he's been suppressing his grief. A genuine smile breaks through his tears as he sincerely thanks Eldistia by name. Her heart is deeply touched by his vulnerability, her expression softening with affection. She explains that her role is simply to fulfill her mission as a goddess and nothing more. He asks her what she is to him, his mouth still full of the comforting stew. A soft, understanding smile plays on her lips as she gazes at him warmly. The scene shifts to a pristine beach where Rio marvels at seeing the ocean for the first time. He is suddenly flustered by the sight of Eldistia in her swimwear. Turning away with a bright red face, he mutters that she looks strange in her bikini. Her confident smile falters, stung by his innocent but blunt comment. A wave crashes on the shore, marking the awkward moment between them. Covering her mouth, she tells him to go play, promising to teach him to swim later. As she settles onto a lounge chair, she lets out a sudden sharp cry of pain. Clutching her foot, she worriedly asks if he is all right, her concern for him overriding her own pain. He points to a tiny crab, realizing it pinched her, and briefly thinks how cute she is. She covers her mouth, mortified by her ungoddess-like display of pain. She laments her role as a guardian, feeling she is the one being looked after instead. He notices that she is covered in small scratches and grains of sand. A gentle power begins to emanate from his body in a soft whoosh. He thanks her sincerely, then points out that she is now covered in sand. The tiny grains of sand magically begin to lift from her skin. With a cry of surprise, he watches as his power cleanses her completely. She stands radiantly, explaining that controlling the heavens is simple for a goddess. He looks on with pure, unfiltered amazement, exclaiming that it's incredible. She muses that while he's usually expressionless, his rare smiles are precious. The time has come, she thinks, for them to move on from this moment. She suggests they go for a swim, though he seems hesitant about his abilities. With a confident grin, she assures him that swimming is as easy as flying for her. She gives him a knowing look before gracefully diving into the clear water. He swims through a breathtaking world of vibrant coral and shimmering fish. They explore the beautiful underwater landscape together as a manta ray glides past. She gently presents a small, colorful fish for him to see, sharing a quiet moment. The idyllic day comes to an end as the sun sets. Later that night, Rio sleeps peacefully and deeply in his bed. The door to his room is quietly closed from the outside by a silent watcher. Eldistia stands guard, her expression now serious and full of quiet resolve. A new chapter begins, showing the familiar house under a partly cloudy sky. 5 years later, Eldistia nibbles a sandwich with a troubled, anxious expression. Rio calls out that the sandwich is delicious, which startles her from her thoughts. She hastily insists that it's not good at all, trying to hide her true feelings. She concedes that his assessment of her feelings in the situation is correct. He tells her he knows she put her heart into making it for him, so it feels delicious. His mature gratitude leaves her flustered and momentarily speechless. He thanks her for the 5 years that have passed since his arrival in her world. Her cheeks puff out in a cute, flustered pout, unable to respond. He playfully teases her, declaring how cute she is and how truly delicious the food is. To hide her embarrassment, she hastily chugs a glass of milk. She gulps it down quickly, trying to regain her composure under his teasing gaze. She sputters, saying a god can't die from embarrassment, while he watches calmly. With their meal finished, she brightly suggests they take a trip through the sky. They lift off the ground, soaring into the air with a gentle, graceful whoosh. For 5 years, she has used her divine authority to give him a peaceful, happy life. They fly hand in hand above the clouds, both smiling with pure, unadulterated joy. Their journey takes them over a sprawling town nestled in the mountains. He asks a difficult question, his expression turning serious as he looks at her. He wants to know where his sister, Mireille, is living now. She apologizes, explaining she cannot tell him, but assures him Mireille is happy. He accepts her answer without pressing the matter any further. They continue their flight over a dense, dark forest far below. After landing, Rio senses a presence nearby, putting Eldistia on alert. He hears rustling and the sound of someone running through the undergrowth. Eldistia speculates it might be adventurers near a small local dungeon. A violent sound suddenly erupts from the trees just ahead of them. A hulking, ape-like monster stands over its fallen, bloodied victims. Rio gasps in horror, realizing people are being killed right before his eyes. Eldistia calmly tells him it will be all right, her expression resolute and firm. The monster turns, startled by their sudden appearance. Her eyes narrow with focused intent, a powerful energy gathering within them. An invisible force tears the monster apart with brutal, instantaneous efficiency. The last remaining adventurer looks around, confused by the sudden turn of events. Eldestia closes her eyes and gives thanks, stating it's best not to interfere. Rio looks at her with a gentle, knowing smile, understanding her true nature. She is surprised, asking him why he is thanking her for her actions. He explains that he knows she acted because she wanted to save that person. She replies that she didn't need to do anything. Simply leaving would have been enough. He sees past her words, knowing she truly wanted to help. He tells her that she can't hide her true feelings from him, not anymore. He wonders why she tries so hard to conceal her inherently kind heart. He suggests they head home now that the immediate danger has passed. Another rustle comes from the bushes, startling them both once again. A small pigtail girl, one of the adventurers, peeks out from the foliage. Leaves fall as the girl, trembling slightly, emerges from her hiding spot. She asks if he is uninjured, and he confirms he was just surprised by her appearance. He smiles, teasing Eldestia that this is the first time he's seen her make a mistake. She looks at him, startled by his teasing and accurate observation. She admits she may have overused her power and suggests they go home so she can cook. He offers to cook instead, and she asks in surprise if he even knows how. He confidently takes her hand, saying he can handle it and that they should go. She looks on, a soft, proud smile on her face as he leads the way. A solemn narration begins, marking a profound and permanent moment of change. The intense, wide-eyed stare of the young boy is shown in a close-up. Her divine power to heal and control the weather is now a thing of the past. She admits she has broken a significant rule she herself established for the island. She can no longer grant the wishes of those she deems to be unqualified. In a moment of panic, she realizes she has committed a major, unforgivable rule violation. A profound question hangs in the air regarding the rules of gods and what happens when they are broken. Rio questions Eldestia's past actions, asking why she demanded a price for helping his sister, Mireille. While washing dishes, Eldestia internally acknowledges she would be troubled if her past mistakes were brought up again. Watching her, Rio understands that she is trapped by her divine status, unable to admit her true actions. He perceives her as a kind but tragically unfree person, bound by the very rules of her existence. In a fleeting memory, a hand gently pats the head of a younger, blushing Rio. A surge of frustration washes over Rio as he realizes he is currently powerless to help her. Years have passed, and a 12-year-old Rio now stands before Eldestia in a sunlit garden. Eldestia, holding a watering can, solemnly informs him that the time has come for him to leave. The news is so shocking that the watering can slips from her grasp, her face a mask of panic. Rio observes her contorted expression, noting how strange she looks in her sudden distress. With a sharp cracking sound, the watering can shatters against the stone path below. Eldestia lunges forward frantically, pleading with him not to abandon her, wondering if her love has run out. Her hands clasp together anxiously as she admits her complete lack of any practical life skills. She confesses her ineptitude at all housework, questioning her own divinity in her panicked state. Rio stands silently, watching as a flustered Eldestia tries desperately to regain her composure. He calmly reassures her that her self-deprecation isn't the issue, shaking his head slightly. In a sudden, desperate outburst, she clings to him, crying out for him not to leave her behind. Her face, flushed and teary-eyed, reveals a deep vulnerability and affection for him. Holding her close, Rio decides that it is time to be completely blunt with her. Her confession begins, her words trailing off as she prepares to admit her true feelings. With her eyes squeezed shut, she confesses her deep love for him, her voice full of raw emotion. Rio responds with gentle honesty, listing all the physical and emotional traits he cherishes about her. He affirms that he loves her too, but her face shows utter shock at his clearly unromantic tone. Utterly devastated by the rejection, she crumples to the ground, moaning that she might as well die. Rio's expression hardens, a flicker of firm resolve showing on his determined face. He steps forward and states with powerful conviction that he does not want her to die. Startled by his intensity, she tries to backtrack, forcing a smile and assuring him she won't actually die. Rio looks on, his expression softening slightly in relief at her words. Eldestia suggests he can simply stay with her, questioning what he could possibly gain by leaving. He looks her directly in the eye and announces his unshakable desire to become an adventurer. She immediately forbids it, her voice filled with fear, insisting that the life of an adventurer is too dangerous. She puffs her cheeks in frustration, her resolve wavering as he stands firm against her wishes. Her expression softens into one of sad acceptance, realizing that his mind is made up. He explains that he must become an adventurer in order to reunite with his long-lost sister. She throws up her hands in defeat, conceding that she understands his powerful motivation. He reminds her that not even a god has the power to change a person's heart or will. She clenches her fist, stating her opposition but admitting she can't stop him if he's determined. He leans in close, teasingly whispering that he will now have to be mean to her. He playfully calls her cute reaction mean, trying to suppress a laugh at her flustered state. She insists that a goddess cannot lie and that her feelings for him are serious. He reassures her that it's not a matter of being mean, but about her own feelings. Overwhelmed, she exclaims that she gives up and doesn't know what to do anymore. He gently touches her cheek, the quiet moment charged with a powerful, unspoken intensity. A soft poof sound marks an unintended transfer of power, surprising Rio with its suddenness. Particles of light seem to emanate from her hand in the aftermath of the magical transfer. Mortified, she believes she has ruined everything and that he will surely hate her now. He announces he will take the experience points needed to reach level 2 all at once. Through her tears, she looks up and quietly agrees to his demand, her voice heavy with sorrow. She confesses she could never hate him for something like this, her love for him unwavering. He apologizes for being cruel, but she gently tells him not to say such things. She reveals a shocking truth. She has secretly changed his powerful, innate hero skill. She explains she did it because she couldn't bear the thought of him dying as an adventurer. Rio yells in anger, accusing her of breaking the rules and altering his skill for personal reasons. Her voice trails off as she begins to explain that if she hadn't, he would once again. He places a finger to her lips, silencing her before she can finish her painful thought. Smiling sadly through her tears, she calls him a clever boy, but says that it's fine. She confesses she is mentally weak and couldn't stand to watch him be killed by her own creations. In a sudden, decisive movement, he prepares to sweep her off her feet into his arms. Eldistia's eye widens in surprise as he suddenly lifts her into a strong embrace. He holds her close, her long hair and dress flowing around them in the quiet garden. His gloved hand rests gently on the back of her head, cradling her as she weeps. She buries her face in his shoulder, thinking that their roles have been completely reversed. Her expression is one of pure joy and gratitude, thinking of how he saved her life. She thinks of this embrace as her reward for the happy days they spent together. She reasons that if his sister, Mireille, approves of their bond, then everything will be all right. He holds her tightly, his mind filled with a single, powerful, and unwavering desire. Rio vows to shatter the very rules of the gods that have her so completely bound. A vision shows her trapped by thorny vines, a prisoner he must set free from the island. He promises her that he will conquer this island, his voice firm with absolute resolve. Eldistia nuzzles against his chest, a single tear of peaceful acceptance on her cheek. A soft, clear chime echoes in the air, signaling a profound change has occurred. Rio looks at his hand, realizing that he has finally, after so long, reached level 2. Now in armor, he calls out Eldistia's name while standing in a ruined dungeon corridor. A single level-up notification appears in his vision, catching him completely by surprise. His view is suddenly flooded with a magical storm of cascading level-up notifications. He is utterly bewildered by the impossible, rapidly multiplying advancements. A status screen confirms the unbelievable. He has skyrocketed instantly to level 12. Sitting amidst rubble, he recalls needing 100 million experience points for level 3. A chibi Eldistia appears in his thoughts. He muses she never planned for this outcome. He feels the jump was excessive. 8 or 9 levels would have been more than enough. While his physical stats have improved, he notes he hasn't learned any new magic. He decides to retrieve his luggage and make his way out of the dungeon. He reaches for the straps of his large, heavily laden backpack, ready to leave. He starts down the corridor, determined to make his exit as quickly as possible. A massive, horned goblinoid monster suddenly looms menacingly behind him. His eyes widen in sheer terror at the sudden and completely unexpected threat. The creature mockingly asks if he truly thought it had been vanquished and left for dead. He knows he must escape before the monster fully realizes he is there. The creature's eye glints with cruel intent as it locks its gaze upon him. He realizes with a jolt of panic that he is trapped, pinned between the wall and the monster. Exhausted and overwhelmed, he collapses to the ground, panting heavily from fear and fatigue. A new party of adventurers rushes into the corridor, their leader spotting the danger. The blonde adventurer shouts that the monster is still active and they must help the boy. The boy is too stunned to answer the man's questions about what is happening. The blonde adventurer looks on, bewildered by the strange and dangerous situation. The monster raises a massive fist, preparing to bring it down on the boy. He knows fighting it one-on-one while protecting his luggage will be an impossible task. He instinctively hunches over his pack, shielding it with his own body. Gritting his teeth, he resolves to protect his belongings no matter the cost. The young adventurer Rio stares with wide-eyed terror at an unseen threat. A hand is shown sharpening a blade, the sound of steel on stone filling the air. A swordswoman unleashes a whirlwind of 7 slashes, obliterating a monster instantly. From the ground, Rio watches the aftermath in shock, his luggage shielded by his body. Her hand grips the hilt of her katana with practiced confidence. She stands poised amidst the monster's remains as Rio sits defeated on the floor. He looks at her back, a flicker of memory making him question if she is his mother. With a smooth, fluid motion, she sheathes her blade. Her sharp eyes meet his as she asks if he is uninjured. A vision of her as a younger, smiling girl flashes through his mind. Rio gazes up at his savior from the floor, his expression filled with awe. Her profile is calm and composed, a picture of focused competence. His lips part as he utters a name, a question full of disbelief. Sitting among the rubble, he wonders aloud if she is Mireille. The new chapter's title page confirms her name is indeed Mireille. She touches her chin thoughtfully, asking if he knows who she is. Rio looks flustered, quickly stammering that he does not. He thanks her for saving him, explaining his luggage was in peril, which surprises her. She points out that he's bleeding, but he casually dismisses it. Mireille smiles warmly, explaining it's just leftover blood from a healing spell. She shyly tries to get his attention, looking a bit awkward. He asks her if there is still something on his face. Flustered, she insists his face is clean and thanks him in return. She explains that she had to rush ahead because her party was in trouble. He asks about her companions, and she admits she left them behind. She explains that she isn't a bad person, just occasionally ill-tempered. Rio smiles faintly, thinking that she wouldn't help people without reason. Mireille asserts that her grandparents taught her not to expect rewards for kindness. He thinks to himself that they must be truly good-hearted people. Mireille beams, sharing that she was raised with great love by people not related by blood. Rio's mind connects her incredible good fortune to the power of the goddess. He thinks to himself that this new information confirms his suspicions completely. His internal thoughts declare that she is undoubtedly his sister Mireille. A close-up on his eyes reveals a profound and heartfelt sense of relief. He looks at her, thinking how happy he is that she was able to live well. Mireille looks back at him with a gentle, questioning smile. Rio returns her gaze, a soft, bittersweet expression on his face. He understands her noble motivation, murmuring a quiet acknowledgement. He decides that now is not the time or place to reveal his identity. His concern showing, he asks why she chose the dangerous life of an adventurer. He immediately worries that his question might have sounded too harsh. Mireille passionately declares that adventurers must work hard to earn their keep. She adds with a warm smile that she wants to repay her debt of gratitude. Rio looks on, understanding her noble purpose. She looks at him intently, asking if he might possibly be Rio. He confirms his name, knowing that she should not be aware of it. Mireille gets close, excitedly confirming he is the famous porter who always returns. She clasps her hands in delight, exclaiming what a wonderful name he has. Rio can only offer a sheepish thank you in response. She smiles brightly, clasping her hands before turning as if to leave. He calls out to her, and she looks back over her shoulder. She explains with a bright smile that she has a brother who is 2 years older. Rio's expression is serious as he listens, the word brother echoing in his mind. Standing in the ruined corridor, she asks him his age. He states he is 14, and Mireille reacts with shock, realizing he is 2 years older. She notes that his hair and his eyes are both black, just like her own. Her hope builds to a fever pitch as she whispers his name, asking if it's really him. Her face falls, her expression filled with deep and immediate disappointment. Rio apologetically tells her that he is not her brother and is new to the island. Mireille questions if he is from outside the island. She explains that in 2 years, she has never met another adventurer with his features. She frowns with determination, thinking that finding him will be difficult. Her resolve hardens as she vows not to give up on meeting her brother. Rio understands that her wish is simply to find out where her brother is. She passionately declares she will get her brother back from the goddess. Rio looks on with a slightly confused, innocent expression. He tilts his head, questioning her grand and unbelievable declaration. Mireille leans in, whispering that this is a secret just between them. She insists that her brother was taken away by the goddess herself. Rio looks skeptical, questioning if that is really what happened. Mireille is taken aback, asking if he means it was a god napping. She doubles down, insisting the goddess must know where her brother is. Rio thinks to himself that the goddess is probably watching them at this very moment. He internally speculates that her brother likely just ran away from home. A dark thought swirls, questioning who told Mireille her brother was with the goddess. He pictures the goddess, knowing she would never reveal the painful truth. Mireille eagerly promises a handsome reward for any information he can find. She stands before him, her eyes sparkling with intense hope. A bead of sweat forms on Rio's face as he realizes the complexity of the situation. A massive wolfman warrior, Galf, appears suddenly, calling out for Mireille. Galf grumbles at Mireille, annoyed that she wasn't waiting for him. Rio looks up at the towering, intimidating figure with surprise. Galf leans over Rio, asking if this is the luggage that was left behind. He stares down Rio, expressing his surprise that the boy is still alive. Mireille snaps at Galf, telling him not to be so rude and disrespectful. Galf dismisses her, stating it is the law of the dungeon for the weak to die. He leans in, sniffing Rio curiously with his lupin nose. Galf asks if Rio is the rumored porter who is conveniently unable to die. Rio calmly replies that no one has ever called him that to his face before. Galf lets out a small, amused grunt, taken aback by the response. He throws his head back and lets out a booming, hearty laugh. Mireille mutters about Galf being an idiot, asking Rio if he saved him. A close-up on Mireille's face shows her surprise and concern for Rio. Rio explains that he doesn't die, but is grateful to her for sparing him pain. Mireille's face lights up with a blush at his sincere words. Galf's amusement turns to intrigue, his expression sharpening with interest. His demeanor darkens as he challenges whether Rio truly cannot die. He declares his intent to test that very claim, his voice menacing. Mireille shouts Galf's name, stepping between them to intervene. A close-up on Galf's eyes shows his burning and violent intent. A swordswoman with two-toned hair declares her hatred for this kind of cruel joke. The focus shifts to a dark-haired young man, Rio, his expression serious and thoughtful. A massive wolfman, Galf scoffs, questioning if a mere weakling can stand against him. The swordswoman, Mireille, vows to buy Rio enough time to escape, readying her blade. Galf's axe smashes the stone floor where Rio just stood, but he has already vanished. Rio reappears, calmly assessing the situation. He knows Galf is Mireille's powerful companion. The wolfman is momentarily stunned by Rio's sudden disappearance and reappearance. Rio states he doesn't mind the fight but asks to be tested only once. He stands with a calm, unwavering expression, facing the formidable wolfman. Galf's eye narrows with a flicker of intrigue at the boy's strange confidence. From Galf's perspective, he sees Rio and the fuming Mireille standing before him. Their gazes lock in a tense standoff, a powerful warrior against a mysterious boy. Galf dismisses the encounter as boring, sheathing his weapon with a sharp sound. He complains that fighting a level 1 weakling would only dull his prized axe. Mireille angrily retorts that he should maintain his weapon instead of wasting time. Galf's frustration shifts back to Rio, his glare filled with annoyance. Rio observes that the wolfman hasn't even flinched from his initial position. The wolfman declares he's taking Mireille and leaving, blaming her for the trouble. Mireille turns, insisting that Galf apologize to Rio for his rudeness. Rio reassures her that he doesn't mind, trying to de-escalate the situation. A gentle, understanding smile touches Rio's face as he diffuses the tension. Mireille reluctantly accepts his word, though she still looks concerned. Effortlessly shouldering his huge pack, Rio says he can leave the dungeon alone. Mireille gives him a bright, cheerful smile, hoping to see him again somewhere. She offers a deep, formal bow as a sign of respect and farewell. Rio watches her leave, a thoughtful and slightly amused expression on his face. Mireille hurries to catch up with the large, retreating figure of Galf. The massive, ziggurat-like entrance to the dungeon stands against the sky. Rio's party members look on from a distance, their faces etched with worry. Upon seeing him emerge safely, they rush towards him with visible relief. The party leader, Biel, pulls Rio into a rough, emotional hug of reunion. A framed image captures this happy moment of the party reunited. The view shifts to a quaint house, establishing a different location. A long-haired woman, Eldistia, gazes at the framed photo, sighing with relief. She collapses onto a balcony railing, tears of relief streaming down her face. A memory shows her vowing that she couldn't just leave him like that. The memory shows her gently patting a younger, bruised Rio's head with concern. The scene returns to the bustling town of beginnings, filled with adventurers. A woman resembling Mireille is seen browsing the market stalls. Outside a large guild hall, someone joyfully announces Rio's return. Inside, Biel suggests Rio should officially join their party now that he's leveled up. Two of his companions, a man and an elf, argue, insisting he come with them. Rio waves them off with a cheerful smile, saying he's not considering it now. His former party members are left speechless by his polite refusal. He reflects on his need to focus on training now that his stats can grow. He approaches a reception desk offering a polite greeting. He formally requests a temporary leave of absence from his porter duties. A memory surfaces of a young Rio wanting to become an adventurer like his mother. His mother playfully dismisses the idea, lamenting her cursed fate. The young Rio looks on, his expression one of confusion and sadness. With teary eyes, he asks if he shouldn't want to be like her. His mother's gaze softens as she considers his heartfelt question. She pulls him into a tight embrace, her hand resting gently on his head. She firmly tells him that if he believes in his path, he must never give up. With fierce determination, she explains that a strong will is key to conquering the island. Rio's eyes reflect the deep impact of this remembered encouragement. A faint, warm smile touches his lips as the memory fades. He thinks to himself that he just had such a wonderful dream. He acknowledges that he has no real memory of her saying those exact words. Yet the feeling of her encouragement remains, sparking a new resolve in his eyes. This feeling is like a powerful push forward, a tangible source of motivation. A gentle, determined smile appears on his face as he internalizes the memory. He walks away with purpose, vowing to himself that he will not give up. He arrives at the Silver Vulture Inn, calling out a greeting as he enters. The Horn proprietor, Adela, turns from her work, surprised by his early return. He explains to her that his work contract had just ended. Adela smiles knowingly, remarking that sometimes things just happen that way. She acknowledges that these things happen from time to time. Seeing the inn is quiet, she tells him to go relax in his room. From across the room, a woman with long, light hair offers a polite thank you. Rio stands with Adela at the bar, asking about the new arrival. He points out the woman sitting at a table, asking if she's been served. Adela panics, shocked that such a beautiful patron entered without her noticing. Rio calmly offers to take the woman's order, and Adela gratefully accepts. He approaches the table politely, asking if she has decided on her order. The woman looks up from her menu, a question forming on her lips. The beautiful woman sits with a serene, gentle grace looking over the menu. She smiles warmly, commenting on the cute waiter and asking for his name. He simply replies that his name is Rio, and she comments on its nice sound. She asks him to call her Elle, a request he acknowledges. Rio asks Elle for her order, and she requests a mild black tea. Elle sits quietly, a new chapter focusing on the goddess beginning. Elle is internally triumphant, realizing Rio hasn't recognized her as a goddess. She feels relieved that the power preventing him from recognizing her is still active. Rio, however, is deeply puzzled, wondering why the goddess Eldistia is here. He questions why she's using a fake name and acting so casually. He concludes there must be a reason she's hiding her identity from him. Elle sighs, wondering how she should face him when he finally realizes who she is. She decides she must close the distance between them slowly and carefully. Her imagination runs wild, envisioning a grand mansion to invite him to. Her thoughts become more serious and analytical as she ponders his progress. Rio, preparing her tea, reflects on his own journey and recent level up. Elle notes his abnormally fast growth and that his required EXP has been halved. She realizes his power is on par with the legendary evolution skill. She wonders if he was born with this skill, since it's his first time using it. She questions how he could have two unique skills, theorizing about his mother's curse. She laments her own confusion, frustrated that even as a goddess she doesn't understand. Rio returns with the tea, and she comments on its lovely fragrance. He asks if she needs anything else, but she just laughs happily. In a sudden burst of excitement, Elle grabs his arm, her composure completely gone. The young adventurer, Rio, turns around to ask what his companion needs. A beautiful blonde woman named Elle laughs, apologizing for her loud outburst. She enthusiastically notes his recent level up, offering him items and money. Rio, looking surprised, politely states that he does not need anything in particular. Elle becomes frantic, rapidly offering to buy him all sorts of expensive equipment. Their faces are close, her panic contrasting with his calm, steady gaze. She internally frets, thinking her excitement has ruined her plan to approach him slowly. He gently explains that he appreciates the thought but cannot use high-level gear. Elle's shoulders slump in dejection as she processes his polite refusal. Rio continues, explaining that he was already planning to get some new equipment. He asks if she might know of an affordable shop, since he is new here. Her spirits instantly lift as she enthusiastically agrees, knowing the island well. She racks her brain, trying to think of the perfect, well-known shop. A brilliant idea strikes her face lighting up with a triumphant expression. She thanks him and asks if he can take her there in 1 week. Rio explains his need to train first as his stats are still low. He smiles, saying he just needs to raise his stats to a decent level. Elle is taken aback, questioning the 1-week delay he has proposed. He confidently states his simple goal is to nearly double his stats. With a warm look, he says he will be in her care at the inn. She slowly processes his words, realizing they will be going out alone. The full implication hits her. She realizes with a blush that it's a date. A week later, Rio arrives outside the Silver Vulture Inn, calling out for Elle. Elle waits for him, looking lovely, her face alight with joyful anticipation. Rio calls out her name with a warm and friendly smile. They stand facing each other, a silent moment passing between them. A flashback shows Rio's grueling training over the past week. He internally reflects on his abnormally high stat growth despite his nerfed skill. From afar, Elle realizes he must possess the hidden extreme evolution skill. She snaps back to reality, apologizing for having spaced out. Rio looks at her, a hint of confusion on his face. Elle comments on his formal way of speaking, a curious look on her face. He asks if it's strange, while she admits it creates a bit of distance. He smiles, understanding that she is forcing herself to act formally too. She sheepishly admits that as a new acquaintance, she shouldn't judge. He suggests they speak more casually like they used to, which she likes. A tear of joy wells in her eye as she recalls their time together. She agrees with a radiant, emotional smile, happy to be with him again. Announcing it's time to go, she stands up from her seat. Rio looks on with a gentle, agreeable expression. Elle gets excited, realizing they are finally alone together. She playfully wonders if she should try to hold his hand. As he starts to walk, she calls out for him to wait a moment. Her shoulders slump in disappointment, thinking her advance has failed. She is surprised as his gloved hand reaches out toward her. He offers to be her guide, and she swoons with affection. Just as their fingers are about to touch, a new voice calls his name. A young warrior woman, Mireille, appears, greeting him cheerfully. Elle is visibly shocked and annoyed by the sudden interruption. Rio asks Mireille if she needs him for something. He humbly thanks her for her congratulations, while Elle seethes silently. Mireille's attention is drawn to the beautiful woman standing with Rio. Elle is startled as Mireille asks who she is. She thinks to herself that she is just a customer, not his sister. Mireille notices they're almost touching hands and gasps with realization. She recalls the gesture of them about to take each other's hands. She exclaims that they must be on a date, apologizing for interrupting. Mireille bows so low her head almost hits the ground, apologizing profusely. Rio is left bewildered, wondering what a date even is. He explains they were just going to a shop to get him new gear. Elle slyly announces she knows of a legendary hidden weapons shop. Mireille's eyes sparkle with wonder, wishing she could go to such a place. She panics, realizing she would be intruding on their time together. Mireille thinks that she is just projecting her desire to be with her own brother. She resolves to become a reliable older sister figure herself. Elle playfully invites Mireille to come along, teasing her for intruding. With Rio's approval, Elle triumphantly declares they will all go together. She is inwardly pleased with herself for taking control of the situation. Mireille is completely flustered, unsure how to handle the social awkwardness. Elle takes the warrior girl's hand, pulling her along with a firm grip. Mireille looks on with a nervous expression, caught up in the moment. Rio seems slightly confused but goes along with the plan. He gently takes Elle's hand, causing her to jump in surprise. He offers a quiet word of thanks for her help. Elle internally thanks Mireille for the unexpected turn of events. A thought crosses Mireille's mind as she observes the three of them. She muses that they must look like a mother out with her two children. Mireille and Rio stare in astonishment at their destination. A sophisticated anthropomorphic cat greets them, saying he was expecting Elle. The group is stunned to see a talking, well-dressed cat. The cat proprietor calmly notes that another person has joined the party. He identifies Mireille as the young dragon princess, to her surprise. He states he will judge them on their potential and invites them inside. Inside, he tells them to browse the shop's rare and exquisite wares. The cat introduces himself as Yusea Rian, the shop's proprietor. Mireille is thrilled, telling him to feel free to browse his prized goods. She happily tells Rio she's glad to be considered qualified to enter. Yusea then turns and asks Elle who provided her with a referral. Elle stammers, flustered and unable to give a straight answer. Yusea recalls how she simply showed up and demanded the right to enter. Mireille asks if that's allowed, and Yusea flatly says it is not. He explains he only agreed on the condition of assessing their passion. Elle agrees that passion is necessary to move people's hearts. Yusea warns that if they fail his test, all three will be banned. Elle accepts the high-stakes challenge, her expression determined. She encourages Rio and Mireille to look around the shop at their leisure. Elle marvels at a magnificent, jewel-encrusted sword on display. Rio admits it's cool, but not the kind of weapon he finds appealing. Mireille agrees, stating that the sword is far too large for her. She turns to Rio, saying her goal is to help him choose a weapon. Rio contemplates the dual swords, feeling obligated since Mireille picked them out for him. The monocled cat shopkeeper, Yusea, senses his hesitation and asks what troubles him. Rio explains his past as a porter left him without a defined fighting style. He admits that while dual swords are his goal, he feels insecure about using them. Mireille passionately encourages him, saying all adventurers feel uncertain when they first start out. Yusea wisely advises that mastering a beloved weapon is better than a forced ideal. The shopkeeper's monocled eye gleams as he adds a final piece of advice. Rio's gaze sharpens, the profound wisdom of the advice clearly resonating with him. He states he doesn't use his appraisal eye often, but will try it now. Yusea explains that appraisal only reveals stats, not the deeper truth of an item. Filled with new resolve, Rio looks up and declares that he will try. His eye narrows in intense concentration as he prepares to activate his unique skill. With a brilliant flash of light, his powerful appraisal eye skill fully activates. His perception of the shop warps, revealing a hidden layer beyond normal sight. His enhanced vision cuts through the clutter, zeroing in on a pair of daggers. A soft gasp of awe escapes him as he discovers the hidden weapons. He asks what these sleek, wing-like daggers are, captivated by their unique design. Yusea observes the daggers with a sly smile, commenting on their sharp nature. The narrative reveals the first swords were a legendary, one-of-a-kind masterpiece by Leonatrides. From Yusea's perspective, however, the legendary weapon was not considered particularly rare. Rio reflects on his clumsiness, preferring mid to long-range weapons that offer safety. He also wants to avoid weapons that require complex or troublesome maintenance. He practices a swing, thinking he should focus on raising one skill level. He recalls the many cool, overwhelming first-rate warriors he has admired from afar. Remembering his mother was a dual wielder, he wishes she could see him now. A memory shows his mother laughing, dismissing his request to see her fight. He admits he didn't have a strong desire to become a swordsman like her. However, he always held a deep and profound admiration for her as a magic swordsman. He sighs, believing it impossible for someone so clumsy to wield two swords. Yet an image of himself looking cool while dual-wielding flashes in his mind. Mireille's voice cuts in, her eyes sparkling as she exclaims how cool dual swords are. His gaze falls upon the sword, his expression showing his decision has been made. Turning to the shopkeeper, he asks for the price of the two swords. Yusea thoughtfully calculates the price, admitting it will be quite expensive. Rio and his companion Elle lean in, awaiting the shopkeeper's final price. Both Mireille and Elle cry out in unison, shocked by the exorbitant cost. Without hesitation, Rio declares he will buy them, shocking his companions. He arranges to use his Adventurers Guild credit, which Yusea deems trustworthy. His companions watch in stunned silence, unable to believe he actually bought them. As he turns to leave, Elle offers a gentle farewell, wishing him well. Mireille, still concerned, asks if he is truly okay with the decision. The newly purchased dual swords are now sheathed securely at his hip. He turns back with a confident smile, confirming he is certain of his choice. Mireille gazes at him, a faint blush appearing on her cheeks. She wonders aloud what their next step will be now that he's armed. Rio firmly announces his next goal is to find a master, surprising her. His gaze hardens as he contemplates the meaning of the word master. He needs more than a combat instructor, he needs a guide for life. Mireille turns away, doubting that such an ideal person could even exist. His expression darkens as he considers the difficulty of finding such a mentor. He worries his unique fighting style would be a burden for any potential teacher. He explains his strategy of dying and reviving to gain double experience points. Mireille is rendered speechless, while Elle remarks on his incredible bluntness. Rio gives a slight smile, acknowledging that he understands their shocked reactions. He recalls past adventurers berating him for not valuing his own life. But the massive experience gained from dying is a benefit he cannot ignore. Mireille apologizes, understanding that the efficiency of his method is undeniable. Seeing her expression, a new idea begins to form in his mind. He looks at her directly and asks if she would spar with him. The scene shifts to a wide, sunlit clearing surrounded by lush forest. Rio and Mireille stand opposite each other, ready to begin their spar. Elle stands to the side, her arms crossed with a pensive, worried expression. Rio reflects on the strange circumstances that have led to this sudden duel. He notes the star on her neck, the mark of a dungeon conqueror. He recalls her prodigal rise, reaching level 30 in only 6 months. Her rapid growth was due to her unique skill, evolutionary supremacy. The skill allows for powerful, rapid growth in every aspect of her abilities. It is the same legendary skill once possessed by the magic swordsman Levenevelk. This led to theories she was a reincarnation of a hero or dragon. Because of this, she became known by the title Young Dragon Princess. Mireille cheerfully tells him to try his best not to die during their spar. He agrees with a determined look, ready to give the fight his all. He knows her stats are double his, and she has many powerful skills. His own meager skills pale in comparison, forcing him to go all out. He immediately activates his foresight skill, his eye glowing with power. He stands ready, his hand resting on the hilt of his new sword. He remains frozen in place, waiting for her to initiate the attack. Mireille asks if he's not coming, deciding to take the initiative herself. She declares that she is coming to him, lunging forward with her blade. Rio is stunned by her explosive speed, barely able to react to her charge. She leaps high into the air, preparing a powerful overhead strike against him. Her blade whistles through the air as it descends in a powerful arc. He manages to block her strike, the sheer force of it staggering him. He grunts in exertion, shocked by the immense weight of her single-handed blow. The force of her attack sends him stumbling backward across the clearing. He notices something strange about her sword as she presses her swift attack. He mutters about her blade just as she flashes past him with incredible speed. She reappears behind him, commenting that he must have seen her quick movement. She reveals her exceptionally sharp weapon as the famed demon blade, Sanjumaru. Face to face, she explains that the blade curses its wielder with every cut. She leaps away from him as a sinister dark aura swirls around the blade. He recoils in shock, his mind reeling from the blade's terrible secret. He yells at her, questioning why she would willingly use such a cursed weapon. She calmly explains the curse's effect is lessened for her, so it isn't painful. He asks if she has a specific reason to use the sword despite the curse. She looks away, explaining she was told to get curse resistance before adventuring. She was specifically warned to acquire it if she intended to conquer the island. Rio wonders where she could have heard such specific and uncommon advice. He theorizes it must be for a fatal status ailment, like petrification. Mireille admits with a somber expression she was never told the reason why. With a troubled expression, Rio wonders aloud who could have given Mireille such information. He reflects on how his mother, Leva, had very few people who knew her secrets. Mireille lunges forward, reassuring him that her cursed blade will not actually cause him harm. The flat of her blade whistles through the air with a sharp cutting sound. She urges him to stop hesitating and simply come at her with everything he has. His mind races, telling himself to cast aside unnecessary thoughts and just focus on fighting. A furious exchange of blades erupts between the two skilled sword wielders in the clearing. Mireille's expression is focused as she parries one of his strikes with her katana. Confused by her sudden aggression, Rio questions her motives during their intense spar. Leaping backward through the trees, he knows that he must only keep moving forward. Mireille continues her relentless assault, her movements a blur of focused speed and power. Rio realizes her technique is twice as refined, making a clean hit feel impossible. He feels a faint sting as her blade just barely grazes his cheek during a parry. Small cut appears on his face, a testament to her precise control. He understands now that she is holding back, a fact that is plain to see. Mireille's expression is pained and worried as she watches him fight. He questions why she looks so troubled, realizing his own curse is activating. She takes a decisive step, her foot landing firmly in the grass. In a sudden move, she leaps away, putting significant distance between them. As he calls out her name, she lands and firmly commands him to stop. Standing alone in the clearing, they face each other, her order hanging in the air. Rio echoes her command, utterly confused as to why she has stopped the fight. She looks down, explaining that his fighting style is unbearable for her to watch. With tears in her eyes, she says it feels like he treats his life as worthless. He listens to her words, his expression a mask of stunned silence. From the woods, the goddess Eldestaya sits thoughtfully, observing the scene from afar. She sighs, taking full responsibility for the boy's reckless philosophy of life. A memory shows a younger Rio, who was given a skill that treats life as disposable. He recalls the day his party was annihilated, his mindset a major cause of the tragedy. The memory reveals his tendency to neglect his own safety for the sake of others. Mireille acknowledges that she understands he cannot die, but that doesn't ease her pain. She stands across from him, her posture showing her distress and conviction. Her face contorts with sadness as she confesses that watching him is just too painful. Rio stands silently for a long moment, processing her emotional words. Mireille turns away slightly, her hand covering her mouth as she agrees with his assessment. He remains resolute, stating that this is the only way he knows how to fight. He thinks his mother would have told him to use his cool skill more effectively. He is glad, he thinks, that Mirai possesses a proper sense of ethics. After the spar, Mirai looks at him with a somber, apologetic expression. She apologizes, explaining she can't recommend a master for him after seeing his power. With a deep, formal bow, she states that she cannot offer him any recommendations. Rio smiles gently, telling her it's fine as he never planned to have a teacher. Mirai announces her departure, wishing him well with his training before turning to leave. As she walks away, Rio is suddenly struck by an impulsive thought. He calls out for her to wait, his voice sharp and stopping her in her tracks. Looking flustered, he admits he stopped her without really thinking about it first. A memory of her sad face flashes, convincing him he cannot let her leave like this. Her bright, happy smile from their first meeting contrasts with her recent pain. He clenches his fist with newfound resolve, determined to continue their conversation. Looking down thoughtfully, he says that he has something to ask her. He looks at her intently and asks if she also has a master. Her expression instantly brightens into a wide smile as she confirms she has many. She explains her guild is full of powerful sword and magic users who teach her. However, she reveals that before joining, someone else taught her about being an adventurer. She adds that her grandparents did not want her to pursue this dangerous path. With a fond smile, she refers to this mysterious mentor as her first master. She reveals this person also taught her that she has a brother 2 years older. Rio is utterly shocked by this stunning and unexpected revelation. He glances toward Eldistia's hiding spot, wondering if she could be the mysterious mentor. He knows he cannot ask directly, as Mirai is clearly hiding her own identity. He asks what this master was like, and she says she doesn't know her name. Mirai explains that the woman had the same black hair and black eyes as her. She describes a mysterious person who cryptically said she couldn't reveal their names yet. Eldistia listens from the trees as Mirai recounts being taught adventurer mindsets and tactics. Mirai laughs, adding that her mentor warned her not to take her own advice too seriously. A jolt of realization hits Rio as he connects the dots with her earlier words. He asks if this was the same person who told her to acquire curse resistance. Mirai confirms that this mentor used to appear quite often in the past. She looks away wistfully, saying she hasn't seen her since joining the guild. She touches her ponytail, a habit she picked up from her mysterious role model. She admits to copying the hairstyle to feel a sense of security and closeness. Rio glances toward Eldistia's hiding spot, a new understanding dawning on him. Eldistia realizes why he trusts Mirai, as she is the only one who fits. But a chilling thought strikes her. This situation should be impossible. An image of their mother, Leva, lying in a coffin flashes through her mind. Rio's voice confirms he was there for his mother's final moments. Eldistia covers her mouth in shock, remembering she witnessed the burial herself. She knows that on this island, resurrection is impossible without her involvement. Rio notices Mirai's distraction and asks if something is the matter. She dismisses his concern, saying it was just a passing thought, and thanks him. With a cheerful wave, she says she must be going and hopes to see him again. Rio watches her leave, then raises his own hand in a silent, thoughtful wave. His gloved hand slowly lowers as he processes the impossible new information. He looks toward Eldistia's hiding spot, wondering if what Mirai said could be true. A stunning possibility forms in his mind, and he wonders if his mother is. A new chapter begins, focusing on the woman who looks like Leva. Rio sits in thought, a quiet moment of contemplation after the revelation. He then leaps into motion, the sound of his training shattering the silence. Livia, who he thinks is Eldistia, asks if he's continuing his training. He knows he must find a way to control his new weapon, not be controlled by it. Livia watches him from a distance, her expression gentle yet melancholic. He practices relentlessly, his sword a blur of motion as he fights for mastery. The afternoon sun begins to cast long shadows as his training continues. The ground around him is scarred and torn from his intense, frantic practice. He collapses onto his back, utterly spent and gasping for air in the clearing. Lying there, his mind races, feeling that he is missing something fundamental. Nearby, Livia has drifted off to sleep, her breathing soft and even. He recalls his past futile attempts to wake her, knowing she sleeps deeply. He feels a pang of shame, wondering what his mother would think of him now. A chibi-style image shows him being helplessly dragged around by his massive sword. In a sun-dappled clearing, Rio reflects on his poor performance with his new sword. He feels that he is simply being swung around by the weapon's immense weight. He recalls the other, more confident adventurers he has met on his journey. He knows that he gave his all in his last fight, pushing forward without fear. Despite his best efforts, a single lingering doubt remains in his mind. He realizes he lacks something more fundamental than just stats or technique. Lying exhausted on the grass, he laments not having a master to guide him. He had hoped to at least use his mother's fighting style as a reference. A thought strikes him as he wonders what she would think if she saw him now. A memory flashes of his mother, Livia, leaping into battle while he runs as a child. Another memory shows Livia holding him, her face filled with concern. The memory fades as he questions what could have changed between then and now. His face is a mask of deep contemplation as he lies in the quiet clearing. A mysterious voice cuts through the silence, observing that the boy seems troubled. Startled, Rio sits up abruptly, recognizing the voice and looking for its source. He pushes through some bushes, certain he has heard this voice somewhere before. The woman offers to give him some advice as she stands by a stream. Rio's eyes widen in stunned recognition as he sees who is speaking. Livia, his mother, appears, waving cheerfully and asking if he has been well. The chapter title page shows a confident Livia with a knowing smirk. Rio looks on, sweating and completely bewildered by her impossible appearance. Livia smirks, asking why he has such a stiff and serious expression. He can only manage to ask what she is doing in this place. She explains she came to see that girl but couldn't leave him in his pitiful state. With dawning realization, he stammers, asking if she is truly his mother. Her sharp, knowing look confirms his unbelievable conclusion. He blurts out that he must make offerings at her grave. Livia looks on with a slightly bemused expression. He explains that he has been faithfully performing this duty. She casually mentions that she tried to visit her own grave, but was blocked by a restriction. She explains that her nature isn't one to be summoned by a specific name. She laughs heartily, calling the person who created this restriction a fool. Nearby, the sleeping Eldestia stirs slightly while Rio remains comically bewildered. Rio's expression turns serious again as he begins to question her about when she was alive. A metaphysical image depicts the impossible karma of resurrecting the dead. Livia's expression turns serious as she prepares to explain the truth. She states that she was not brought back to this world as a person. Her existence is only permitted as a function of the island Eldius. In acute chibi form, she notes his intuition was surprisingly sharp for a kid. Standing opposite him, she asks what he will do now that he knows. He declares that if he aims to conquer the island, she will eventually stand in his way. Livia looks on thoughtfully, contemplating his resolute words. Her face breaks into a wide, predatory grin as she tells him to be prepared. The weight of her words hits him, leaving him stunned and speechless. He realizes this means he must one day fight his own mother, despite being family. He clenches his jaw in frustration at the unfairness of it all. He looks down, muttering that the situation is simply too cruel. His hand rests on his sword hilt as a bead of sweat rolls down his face. Eldestia, still sleeping, thinks that fighting the strongest magic swordsman is a failure in difficulty adjustment. Rio calls out to his mother, whom he addresses as El, with a startled sound. Eldestia speaks in her sleep, telling Livia not to wake the useless one up. Livia smiles, saying there's a specific reason for this strange situation. Eldestia, still resting, states that she has no knowledge of Livia's existence. Rio looks on, confused and sweating, a question mark hovering beside his head. Eldestia explains that the important thing is that he is speaking to a mask. Livia admits she broke a taboo and can no longer control the island she created. Rio stands silently, processing this new, confusing information. He looks up, asking with guilt if all of this is his fault. Livia cheerfully dismisses his concern, saying she's been wanting to mess with Eldestia anyway. Rio looks toward the sleeping Eldestia, deciding it's better for both of them if he says nothing. He knows that eventually Eldestia will find out the truth. He steels himself, wondering what he should do when that time comes. Livia, drawn in a comical chibi style, glares at him, asking what he's thinking about. She demands to know why he's muttering about pointless things with a serious face. He looks down, quietly refuting that his thoughts are pointless. Livia questions why he would suppress his feelings after she came all this way. His shadowed face shows the weight of her words. He stands silently, his expression full of turmoil. She leans in close, telling him to stop overthinking and just do what he needs to do. He looks down, his resolve wavering under her intense gaze. His gloved hand reaches for the sword lying discarded on the ground. The crescent moon hangs in the sky as he finally gives in to his emotions. He lunges forward, burying his face in her stomach in a desperate hug. The first tears begin to trace paths down his cheek as he holds her tightly. His suppressed grief explodes in a raw, wailing sob. From a distance, they are a single silhouette, his cries echoing through the clearing. Livia pats his back, playfully telling him to let it all out but not be too loud. She glances toward Eldistia, confident the girl won't wake up. Livia gazes serenely into the distance, her expression gentle. She thinks to herself that once Eldistia falls asleep, she's not easily roused. The wind rustles the leaves in the quiet, peaceful forest. Rio pulls back, embarrassed, muttering that he cried too much as she pats his head. Livia declares that with the formalities out of the way, they can begin. She asks him directly what he was so worried about. She points, stating that offering advice isn't her style, but she'll make an exception. His eyes widen, a spark of understanding igniting within them. She strikes a dynamic pose, declaring that Livia was the strongest dual wielder in history. He stands silently, his body glowing with a faint aura. He knows that inheriting her techniques will make him much stronger. He admits he is missing something more fundamental than stats or technique. Livia is taken aback, exclaiming in surprise at his unexpected insight. He looks down, quietly telling her not to make fun of him. She admits his realization was a bit unexpected. She notes that he has already reached the stage, skipping over many steps. She laughs, saying she was prepared to lecture him on technical theory, but he figured it out. A comical, simplified image shows her pointing and declaring her intention to do something. She laughs heartily, stating that he has no fundamentals at all, which is cruel. She winks, explaining that fundamentals must be built, not just learned. He repeats her word, foundation, seeking to understand her meaning. She asks if it's different from the basics, confirming it is, and is also his weakness. A young adventurer named Rio declares his fighting style is to use his undying nature. From a distance, his spectral mother watches, quietly approving of his grim resolve. Rio reflects that this strange battle philosophy is something even his sister couldn't grasp. Despite his conviction, he feels his power is lacking as his mother vanishes before him. His eyes widen in shock as she disappears, the chapter concluding on this startling moment. The new chapter opens with her sudden reappearance, asking where he is looking. She explains that since he uses dual swords, a different training approach is needed. Holding two simple wooden sticks, she states the principle is the same as his blades. She intends to finish quickly, concerned about waking the goddess Eldistia sleeping nearby. With a powerful stance, she offers to give the troubled young man some guidance. Rio, holding his own blades, questions if they are just practicing without a proper form. With a knowing smirk, she reveals a shocking truth. She has no set fighting form. He is stunned, realizing she was just swinging the sticks around seemingly at random. The sheer power radiating from her simple swings leaves him in awe and disbelief. He feels a suffocating pressure from her, a power that goes beyond mere technique. The ground around her feet is fractured from the immense force of her stance alone. She tells him not to be disappointed, promising to show him something much better. With a confident smile, she declares she will show him what strongest in history means. In an instant, she vanishes, leaving Rio staring at the empty, disturbed ground. He whips his head around, exclaiming in shock that she has disappeared once again. Appearing right beside him, she tells him to use his good eyes and watch carefully. Before he can react, she becomes a blur of motion, moving away from him. He is thrown on the defensive, his mind racing to keep up with her impossible speed. He parries and dodges her relentless assault, his blades clashing against her wooden sticks. She praises his last move, impressed that he wasn't fooled by her feint. Rio is amazed at how well his body's moving, even as his mind goes blank. He feels his sword being swung, but it's an instinctual reaction, not a conscious one. His mother announces she will lecture him while they continue their intense fight. They clash again in a furious exchange of blows, sparks flying between them. She critiques his laughably low stats, but acknowledges his greatest strength is his experience. She reveals she has only faced death 3 times and only truly died once. A memory of one of his own agonizing deaths flashes through Rio's mind. His mother asks if he has seen and felt the truth of death on his own skin. She explains that the experience of surviving death is carved into one's very soul. Rio realizes why he always felt a strange dissonance when fighting with his swords. A confident, almost predatory smirk crosses his mother's face as the lesson continues. Rio is on the ground, his opponent standing over him after a swift exchange. Believing he can still fight, he launches himself forward with renewed determination. His advance is stopped cold, the tip of her stick held inches from his face. She stands over him, her victory absolute, as the next stage of training begins. Lying on the ground, Rio acknowledges that he has cleared this part of the trial. His mother laughs, delighted by how quickly and surprisingly well he is learning. He confesses that he couldn't even see her movements in that final swift exchange. She explains the gap between them is not of level, but of different dimensions. With absolute confidence, she declares he has yet to see a fraction of her power. A tear of shock and pain forms in his eye as she prepares her next attack. She sends him flying backward with a powerful kick, a shockwave exploding from her foot. The butt of her staff connects with his face in a devastating, forceful blow. She announces she is taking the experience points from this round as a present. With his HP at 0, she tells him to simply lie there and rest for now. A sinister smile spreads across her face as she asks if he just revives instantly. Her words trigger a profound realization in Rio, his eyes flying open in shock. He understands that if she is serious, he can finally fight the strongest in history. He scrambles to his feet, his spirit ignited with a new, dangerous excitement. He dashes away from her, leaving her momentarily surprised by his sudden burst of energy. She is caught off guard by a tripwire he had set, her foot snagging. He yells for her to watch her feet, using her stumble as an opening. He lunges forward, a blur of motion aimed at his now off-balance opponent. A sharp slice is heard as he sacrifices a limb to create a tactical opening. She stands over his fallen form, having impaled him with her staff in retaliation. He grips his sword, preparing to counterattack even after being technically killed. He presses his attack, now dead and with nothing left to lose, surprising her. She blocks his bladed strike with her staff, the impact creating a brilliant flash. She coolly observes that one of his arms has just flown off in the exchange. He continues his assault, sacrificing another limb in a desperate, reckless gambit. Her staff blocks his second attack with a powerful, resounding clang of steel. Now both of his arms are gone, yet his posture remains utterly defiant. He roars that it's not over yet, his eyes burning with an unyielding fire. He leaps back, a whirlwind of motion as his body begins to regenerate. His arms regenerate instantly, and he shouts that they are now back to normal. He points out a crucial difference he has discovered between their powers. His eyes widen as he asks if she understands the distinction in their abilities. He recalls that when her weapon flew, her arm went with it, unlike his. He calls her naive for assuming he wouldn't recover from such grievous injuries. She identifies his lack of experience with defeat as the crucial element he's missing. His blade hangs limp as he processes this critical piece of the lesson. She notes that he has seen top-tier adventurers fight, but his case is different. She points out his lack of experience in actually defeating enemies himself. She questions what happens when an enemy's reaction differs from his expectations. She asks what he must do, knowing he lacks imagination for his own post-death state. He clenches his fist, a moment of epiphany as the lesson finally clicks into place. The dozing Eldistia stirs slightly in the quiet forest clearing, unaware of the battle. A stray stick from the fight inexplicably bonks her on the head, waking her. She yelps in pain and surprise, wondering where the stick could have come from. His mother apologizes, admitting she was carelessly swinging her stick to change her mood. Rio confirms that this was the case, looking down at the now-awake Eldistia. Eldistia, smiling, says it can't be helped and that she was sleepy anyway. Rio apologizes sincerely, admitting the fault was his for not understanding the lesson. His mother confirms he is correct, praising him for his important realization. He understands that being killed by a real enemy is far more beneficial for him. He thanks his mother for helping him avoid wasting any more of his time. They share a look of mutual understanding, the grueling and painful lesson now complete. She notes that he has found his purpose, which gives him the motivation to proceed. He asks if she is leaving already, seeing her turn away from him. She asks if he truly thinks their time playing together was meaningless. She tosses him a practice weapon, which he catches deftly in his hand. As she vanishes in a swirl of light, she offers him words of encouragement. He watches her disappear, her final "do your best" echoing in the clearing. The sound of her departure echoes through the now silent forest. Eldistia approaches, noticing that he looks refreshed, as if a great weight has lifted. With a new sense of clarity, the young adventurer Rio looks off into the distance. His companion Eldistia asks if he has finally managed to overcome his inner turmoil. Taking her hand, Rio announces his unwavering decision to conquer the Oberon dungeon immediately. Eldistia is thrown into a panic, questioning his choice to tackle a great dungeon. She shrieks in protest, utterly shocked he would attempt such a high-level challenge now. He calmly explains that while Oberon is the easiest of the 7, it's still dangerous. Her face swirls with anxiety as she desperately suggests they level up in a safer dungeon first. But Rio remains resolute, stating his ultimate goal is to conquer this island. He explains that while he's willing to go elsewhere, he feels Oberon is the best choice. His expression brightens with purpose as he declares his need to acquire one of the stars. This, he explains, is so that he can finally have a chance to meet his mother. He acknowledges the path ahead is long, but refuses to see it as a mere detour. If the shortest, most direct path has opened before him, he feels he must take it. A knowing smile touches his lips as he realizes his mentor gave him this difficult task. Elsewhere, his mother figure laughs, wondering if her words were too harsh for him. She leans against a tree, dismissing her concern and knowing it's just his nature. A sly, confident smirk crosses her face as she continues to watch him from afar. Back in the clearing, Rio playfully suggests they get something to eat before he leaves. A title card announces the beginning of his first conquest of the 7 great dungeons. The scene opens on the grand, imposing halls of the Oberon dungeon. Rio takes a determined step forward on the polished stone floor, starting his descent. 3 days in, he has already reached the 2nd underground level of the labyrinth. His 2 tiny fairy companions bicker, one pointing right, the other left towards monsters. Standing in a vast hall, Rio activates his glowing appraisal eye skill to scan the area. The Great Hall is supported by massive, ornate pillars that stretch into the darkness. He stands as a small, solitary figure at the entrance to the intimidatingly large chamber. Ignoring his fairy's argument, he confidently decides to head in the direction of the monsters. One of the fairies cries out in protest, warning him again that is where the monsters are. He dashes forward, questioning why there are so many monsters down this particular path. He immediately confronts a hulking, grotesque mega-troll, a formidable opponent. With a grim look, he determines that it will still be a very difficult fight. Despite the clear danger, he decides to charge straight into the fray without hesitation. He leaps high into the air, easily clearing the troll's wide, swinging club attack. Landing gracefully on his feet, he prepares for the troll's next move, his blade ready. He sidesteps with incredible agility as the monster's huge hand swipes through empty air. He then ducks under another powerful swing, the wind from the attack just missing him. Using the troll's momentum, he positions himself to deliver a powerful blow to its side. The creature is sent careening sideways, its face a mask of complete surprise. Another powerful kick to the jaw sends the beast stumbling backward, completely overwhelmed. The shockwave from the battle sends Rio flying backward through the air. He crashes hard against a dungeon wall, the stone cracking under the immense impact. The wall shatters around him, a testament to the sheer force of the collision. He realizes with alarm that he's about to be thrown all the way to the upper floor. Panicked, he thinks of his money bag and the need to return before the wall repairs itself. He quickly throws a grappling hook, which embeds itself firmly in a damaged pillar. He swings through the air on the line, arresting his flight and returning to the fight. With a look of relief and surprise, he realizes he made it back just in time. The dazed troll turns, shocked that he wasn't thrown to the upper floor as it intended. As he swings in, he thinks that if the troll is surprised, he has a perfect opening. He pulls out his wicked curved blade, preparing to launch a decisive counterattack. His gleaming dual-bladed weapon is now ready for the final, brutal blow. The troll looks on, completely unprepared for the swift and sudden assault. He lands a devastating punch directly on the troll's head with immense force. His eyes widen with focus as he continues his relentless, lightning-fast attack. Before it can recover from the punch, he delivers a powerful kick to its jaw. The troll stumbles backward, completely overwhelmed by the brutal, unexpected assault. The force of the final blow sends both combatants flying across the polished floor. A notification flashes in his vision, showing he has successfully reached level 17. Lying on the ground, a satisfied smile spreads across his face as he confirms his level up. He cheerfully tells his fairies that the fight provided good experience, though they seem horrified. A diagram explains that as his level increases, experience from weaker monsters decreases. He reasons that to successfully conquer the dungeon, he can't afford to remain weak. With renewed resolve, he declares that it's time to increase his base stats. He begins stretching on the floor, muttering to himself while his fairies complain that he is ignoring them. He starts doing intense push-ups right in the dungeon, to his fairies' complete confusion. A blank panel signifies the passage of time as he completes his training. 3 days later, his training is complete as he moves to the next experience point. He stands at a precipice, looking down upon the deepest part of the Oberon dungeon. He gazes at a sprawling underground city, which serves as a rest area for adventurers. The city is bustling with a whimsical sign for a slime burger joint hanging overhead. He walks through the lively streets, taking in the sights of the amazing underground town. A group of young adventurers recognizes him on sight, calling him Porter Bro. An experienced warrior expresses his shock that Rio is tackling this area solo so soon. The adventurer remarks on how much trouble he's causing, while Rio smiles innocently. He politely declines an offer for a meal, explaining that he is in a hurry. They part on good terms, with the adventurer wishing him well on his dangerous journey. Ryo's mind is already on his next goal, crossing the lake and forest to the Great Labyrinth. Before leaving, he approaches a statue and places his hand on a glowing, rune-etched orb. A mechanical voice confirms his arrival and registration at the deepest part of Oberon. A triumphant smile lights up his face, clearly glad to have made it this far. He clenches his fist, vowing to get the star and show his mother figure what he can do. He continues his journey, leaving the bustling underground city far behind him. While walking through a dense forest, something strange catches his attention. He spots a cloud of steam rising in the distance, wondering if it's a hot spring. He vaguely recalls that there is a hot spring facility located in this area. Deciding it's none of his business, he resolves to continue on his way without investigating. His journey is abruptly interrupted by a piercing scream that echoes through the trees. A beautiful elf woman, wrapped only in a towel, bursts from the woods in a state of ecstasy. Ryo stops dead in his tracks, utterly surprised by the sudden appearance of an elf. The elf runs out from the trees, startling him with her sudden and undressed presence. Her face is a picture of pure, blissful euphoria after enjoying her bath. She suddenly trips and cries out for help as she stumbles forward towards him. Ryo instinctively braces himself as she falls towards him, preparing for the inevitable collision. He stands silently as she recovers from her stumble, her head bowed in embarrassment. Clutching her towel, she apologizes for the awkward situation, flustered by her near nakedness. She explains she was trying to dodge him, thinking they were about to collide. She politely refuses any advances from a stranger, leaving Ryo completely confused by her words. He notices the 3 star-shaped marks on her, identifying her as a dungeon conqueror. She wonders aloud how she got so lost, while Ryo asks her what happened. He asks if she, Nora, is all right, showing his concern for her strange situation. Wrapped only in a towel, a confused Mireille stares at the adventurer's raised hand. He advises against her current attire, causing Mireille to suddenly realize her embarrassing predicament. With a sudden lunge, Ryo declares his intent to protect the calm blonde woman. The young adventurer's face contorts into an expression of pure, unadulterated shock. From his perspective, the 2 women watch, one placid and the other surprised. A monstrous wolf's maw fills the view, its voice expressing weary annoyance at encountering Ryo. The beast glares down with immense fury, while Ryo meets its gaze with tense resolve. A close-up on Ryo's face reveals his focused expression as he prepares for the confrontation. The scene reveals a powerful wolfman and his kitsune master, Nora, who notes his anger. Ryo lets out a soft, steadying breath, steeling himself for the impossible fight ahead. Nora calmly requests an explanation as her companion glares, while a flustered Mireille reacts.